In 2025, beneath an ordinary home on Guernsey, a routine renovation struck metal and unearthed a sealed World War II-era Nazi bunker. What lay inside wasn't defense equipment or ration tins, but sealed laboratories, lead-lined vaults, and a radiation-leaking capsule marked Project Eternity. Among logbooks, preserved specimens, and escape tunnels, one question echoed louder than the rest. What was taken from this place before it was buried? And why was it hidden for 80 years? The hidden floor. In 2025, on the island of Guernsey, Channel Islands, a homeowner began a routine kitchen renovation. While removing ceramic floor tile number 17, he struck it with a hammer, and instead of solid stone, heard a hollow echo. Curious, he placed his hand where the tile cracked. Beneath the thin mortar, he felt cold metal. Pushing aside remnants, he exposed a welded steel plate, dull and dark beneath concrete dust. A faint, musty metallic scent, a blend of oil, rust, and stale air, seeped upward. It was clearly not ordinary earth or a forgotten cellar. His surprised glance exchanged with hesitation. Perhaps it was a forgotten cistern, maybe a utility tunnel. Yet something deep felt wrong. Driven by uneasy instinct, he pried at the plate's edge with a screwdriver set. The metal resisted but finally loosened. As the plate lifted, a faint hiss greeted him. A small breath of stale, cold air, expelled from below after decades of silence. The sound wasn't wind, but the exhalation of a sealed void. He froze. There was no turning the moment back. Hesitating no longer, he placed the plate carefully aside, sealed the gap, and contacted local heritage and preservation authorities. Within hours, a team had assembled: a local historian, a structural engineer, and 2 preservation officers. Tools in hand, flashlights ready. The mood shifted from renovation to investigation. As they cleared debris around the metal frame, dust clouds rose, caught in flashlight beams. The plate lay beside them, heavy, cold, and out of place. They exchanged uneasy looks. This wasn't a leak, a storage pit, or a root cellar. It felt deliberate. Finally, at 1442, the homeowner turned the bolt. With a grinding creak that echoed through the floorboards, the plate slid back. Below, enveloped in darkness, lay a narrow stairway. The top step glinted faintly under a stray beam, coated in decades of grime. The staircase descended steeply, vanishing into blackness. One by one, the team peered over the edge, flashlights piercing the void. A chill rose from the depths. This wasn't a forgotten crawlspace. It was a corridor into the past, buried since the war. The house above, ordinary. The secret below, extraordinary. With the hatch open, beams slicing through dust, the group prepared to climb downward. Their hearts pounded with dread and expectation. They were leaving renovation and entering history, or something far darker. First glimpse into the depth. Descending carefully, the explorers stepped into a corridor carved from poured concrete and reinforced steel. The air was cold, near 7 degrees Celsius, and smelled faintly of oil, machine room grease, and damp metal. Their lamps revealed walls lined with riveted panels, the kind of sturdy construction common in mid-20th century fortifications. Yet something felt subtly off. The concrete was too smooth, the metal too new. Occasional graffiti in fading red paint read "Wachtour-12" and a roughly stenciled warning in German, "Feind hört mit." A chill passed along the line of the group. This door bore a mark of wartime occupation, but the construction seemed too deliberate for a simple shelter. At the corridor's end stood a heavy steel door, its thick frame anchored solidly. The red warning paint was chipped, but still legible. Hinges were intact, no visible rust. A small window hatch had once held thick glass. Now it was obscured with grime, but the reinforcing bolts remained. Nearby, a faded numbered sign, Sector Gamma 3, hung crooked. The preservation officer traced his finger along the inscription, feeling the depression beneath decades of dust. It was as if someone meant for this door to be closed and forgotten, but also ready to open again. Switches and wiring ran along the corridor ceiling, conduits buried just under the plaster in the house above. Cables hung loose, labeled in German script with codes like Luftung 1944B and Strom 220 volts. The light fixtures, corroded but visibly intact, seem modern for the era. Their design didn't match typical bunkers of the Channel Islands coastal defense network. Engineers whispered among themselves. Either these were late war improvisations or something more clandestine. The mismatched fixtures hinted at special purpose. As the team paused, flashlights cutting arcs across the door's surface, a sense of time collapse struck them. Above, a quiet home with groceries and wrapping paper. Below, Asameda, a locked portal to 1944, to danger, to secrets. The door was not just a barrier, it was a boundary between ordinary life and buried history. Behind it lay not rubble but intent. They steeled themselves. Whoever sealed this place meant to hide much more than concrete and steel. The unknown waited beyond. With hearts quiet and torches raised, they turned the handle. The steel door groaned. Metal scraped on metal. A bitter draft sighed out, as if the bunker exhaled after 80 years underground. The secret hatch. Once the steel door swung open, the explorers stepped into dim light, revealing a corridor floor of welded metal panels. One section caught a glint beneath dust, a square hatch faintly outlined. On impulse, the structural engineer tapped it. The sound rang hollow. Beneath lay a grate, heavy iron mesh fixed by 4 bolts. The inscriptions on the bolts were German. Zugang Untergeschoss 45. A shovel-like echo when tapped, not sediment, but empty space. That detail in the cold metallic ring sent a ripple of unease through the group. With gloved hands, they set aside the bolts. Rusted but operable after roughly 81 years undisturbed. The metal grate lifted easily, revealing a circular wheel lock mechanism. The wheel turned smoothly, gears creaking as centuries of inert tension released. A soft click, then a faint hiss of stale air escaping from below. The smell, a blend of old oil, dark metal, and something faintly biological, hit them. Below, blackness, a ladder built into the opening ladder rungs leading down into the silence. To climb or not to climb was no longer a question. Historians checked their wartime maps and archive records. No hatch, no shaft, no subterranean extension was ever documented at that address. The standard fortification plans for the island included bunkers, gun emplacements, observation posts, but nothing resembling a multi-level underground facility hidden beneath a civilian structure. The existence of a functional grate and lock suggested that this lower level was meant to be entered and exited multiple times. It wasn't random. It wasn't forgotten. It was secured, sealed, and meant to stay hidden. In that moment, stepping past the hatch felt like crossing the boundary from archaeology into forbidden ground. The home above, tidy, familiar, benign. Below, a realm sealed by necessity, by fear, or by guilt. The team hesitated at the edge, flashlights trembling in gloved hands. None spoke. The only sound was the slow drip of condensation down the ladder. As they looked down into darkness, they realized this was no ordinary relic. This was a buried secret waiting to remember itself, whether the world was ready or not. The inner facility. Descending the metal ladder took time, nearly 12 vertical meters of reinforced shaft, the air growing colder and heavier with each rung. At the base, the team's lights revealed something unexpected. A secondary corridor, broader than the first, with walls clad in smooth concrete lined with steel strips, not the rough-cut or hastily poured look of typical wartime bunkers. Along the left wall, doors were marked with printed stencils in German. Labor A, Spiker Dry, Kammer 6. These weren't defensive emplacements. They were rooms, facilities designed for use. In Storage Room 3, the team uncovered sealed ration tins dated May 1944, metal water drums, and still pressurized oxygen tanks, the kind used for long-term sealed environments. A clipboard hung on the wall, coated in grime but legible, a supply inventory referencing provisions for up to 120 days. This wasn't a fallback shelter. It was prepared for occupation. Survival. Secrecy. More disturbing was Lab A. The space contained a long metal table, discolored by corrosion and dark stains. Nearby stood a central map, hand-drawn pinned to a corkboard, with red thread connecting points across Guernsey, Jersey, and the Normandy coast. Beside it, folders labeled Operation Grauzite and Versuchsobjekt 5B. The lab's ventilation system astonishingly powered on when tested, a muffled hum rising from behind a panel, suggesting a functioning electrical circuit after 8 decades. Behind sealed lab doors and silent hallways, the story grew darker. This was not just a bunker. It was a facility with intent, coordination, and something else entirely buried in its blueprints. The architect behind it, sifting through a collapsed filing cabinet, the team discovered engineering blueprints and lab memos signed under the code name Hans Kammeler. That name triggered alarm. A Nazi engineer mentioned in classified 1945 OSS documents, once suspected of working on underground labs in Poland and Austria. His presence in Guernsey had never been confirmed. Until now, these newly found schematics, labeled Stufe 2 Strukturplan, März 1944, showed not a defensive shelter, but a dual-level, bi-level underground complex with escape shafts, specimen storage zones, and something marked Energiekammer 5. These designs were far beyond anything built openly during the German occupation of the Channel Islands. Notably, the corridors were mirrored, a design known in covert construction for disorienting trespassers and concealing room counts. During World War II, the Germans had heavily fortified Guernsey in the surrounding islands, pouring in tens of thousands of tons of concrete. Some bunkers still exist as public museums, but this facility, this sealed invisible lab, was nowhere in official records. That meant it was never meant to be found. Historical cross-referencing linked Kammeler to an obscure program called Project Inlect, believed to be a code name for biological field modulation tests conducted in occupied France. Many records of this project were destroyed or sealed post-war, but references remained in Soviet interrogation notes dated 1946. The blueprints, now in their hands, matched these patterns. Corridor lengths, chamber ratios, a 2-exit design wing, one above, one to the sea. Now they knew who built it, but the why was only beginning to emerge. And as the corridors twisted deeper, the signs of life, and something much worse, began to appear. Signs of life. This wasn't an abandoned project. It was a living installation. The layout was too methodical, the systems too deliberate. As they moved through the lower level, they found rooms with labeled dials, still pressurized tanks, and a ventilation system that had only partially failed. All indicators of active use until its sealing, likely in mid-1945. Personal items lay scattered. A worn leather glove, a cigarette tin bearing the mark of the Wehrmacht, a mirror still attached to a locker wall. In the mess quarters, a rusted spoon sat atop an empty soup bowl, untouched since the end of the war. A faded ration card listed 10 names, each struck through one by one, then read Pambo. The space wasn't just used, it had been lived in. In a sealed side room, the team cracked open a locked filing cabinet. Inside were letters, many dated April 1945, most unfinished. One read, "Tell Marta I never meant to," and then the line stopped. Others referenced transfers, Stage 5 subject collection, and in one chilling phrase, "It cannot be contained if power is lost again." Fear was in the handwriting. The urgency of evacuation or destruction bled through the paper. Beyond living quarters and lab benches, one final door remained sealed. Its reinforced frame was thick with lead, and painted on its surface was a phrase not seen since the Cold War began. The final chamber. The chamber door was unlike any before. A 17-centimeter thick steel bulkhead, bolted shut and painted with faded German stencils. Experiment 5, Geheim. Top secret. Cutting through took nearly 6 hours, aided by plasma tools from the engineering team. What waited inside was a revelation. The room was cold and utterly still. Lead-lined walls, glass viewing ports reinforced with steel crossbars, and ventilation units housed in shock-proof brackets. This wasn't a bunker chamber. It was containment, a testing vault. At its center stood a heavy cylindrical steel capsule, heat warped along one side, its surface scarred with burn marks and radiation warning triangles. A handheld Geiger counter chirped instantly. Radiation was present, faint but measurable. Surrounding the capsule were what appeared to be early circuit boards, glass tube panels, and insulated copper coils. Rudimentary electronics far beyond typical 1940s German engineering. One expert on site whispered that the configuration resembled early attempts at nuclear field stabilization, a crude precursor to atomic regulation systems used in the 1950s. The scale of secrecy had reached its peak, but if something had been transferred, the facility wasn't a grave, it was a launch point, and what followed would only deepen the mystery. The escape route. Behind a rusted generator panel, a narrow passage was discovered, lined with narrow-gauge tracks, cargo hooks, and sliding rails. The tunnel sloped gently downward and then west, toward the cliffs above the Guernsey coast. This was not an escape route for people, it was for materials, for transport, for disappearance. Scattered along the corridor were signs of hasty departure, footprints frozen in dust, sets of discarded gloves, a rolled sleeping mat, and a checklist wedged between two floor plates. It read, "Cargo secured, hatch welded, exit point prepped." The handwriting matched that found in the Project Eternity logbook. A small metal cart lay overturned beside the rails, loaded with now rusted containment canisters, each tagged with dates in April 1945. Further down, a side chamber held oxygen tanks, decontamination suits, and a crate of documents partially burned, as if someone had tried to destroy records but left in haste. Notably, the tunnel ended in a sealed rock face, but drone scans revealed signs of previous blasting, suggesting the tunnel once extended fully to the sea. Perhaps to a hidden cove, perhaps to a waiting U-boat or barge, but now it was silent, dead. Whatever had left this facility, it had done so with planning, and without any intention of being found. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a hidden experiment, it was a concealed operation. And after it vanished, the world above was told nothing. The cover-up. When researchers cross-checked the site against Channel Islands' wartime maps, the area was marked only as a utility zone. No bunkers, no fortifications, no known German structures. The Guernsey Occupation Archives, detailed down to power lines and command posts, made no mention of a two-level underground lab. Even within British intelligence declassified documents from 1945 to 1951, where Axis fortifications were catalogued, this site didn't exist. The property above it had changed hands 6 times since 1953, with no mention of structural anomalies, sinkholes, or unusual features in land registries. But the silence doesn't just come from hidden maps or forgotten documents. It echoes from the unanswered questions, the chilling discoveries, and the final implications that no one wants to face. The horror of what we know: one crate, one capsule, one phrase, successful transfer. These fragments force a terrifying thought, that the facility was not just for development, but deployment, for using whatever it had created. The test subject tags, the metal tubing inserted into tissue, the radiation, it all points toward biological weaponization. Or worse, an attempt to fuse life with unstable energy. Had these scientists succeeded? Did they create something living from atomic experimentation? What exactly had been transferred in May 1945? History buried this bunker, but it didn't erase its secrets. Now uncovered, the facility forces a reckoning with what science, secrecy, and war can create. If this was just one of many, what else lies beneath Europe's soil, still waiting to be found? Or worse, waiting to return?